Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Lee Judges TV. Now, listen, I've been away for a few days, so I haven't been about. And guess what? I've just had some fantastic news. I was meant to be working tomorrow for BetVictor, going into the studio, but because it's too hot, they've given me the day off, and that's very nice for them. Like, so not only had 5 days off now, it's going into 6. So I'm well happy about that. Like, I hope everybody's staying well, in this heat and everything. Like, I know Dan's been in the shade quite often this week. Like, I've been worried about him. I know he was in Clacton yesterday in a shed. I don't know about that. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But before we do, I do the thing with BetVictor. Listen, I'm sorry about this, guys, but they had George Benson on this week. Like, not the singer, the guy from Chelsea. I'll tell you what, even though he's a Chelsea man, he's a class act. I'll give him that. Get over to BetVictor. Watch and subscribe and all that jazz. Just take a look what they're saying about Chelsea, and then we'll get straight in it about Arsenal yesterday and their 2-0 win against Everton and the transfer window.
With this team, Mendy, De Ligt, Silva, Ake, you got the fullbacks of Chilwell and James, Kante and Kovacic as well. It feels like you need cover there, and obviously up top, Mount, Havertz, and Sterling. 10th.
No, there's absolutely no way. Can you genuinely look at that 11 and tell me that is the 10th best team in the Premier League? You can't. You're surely not. So who's finishing ahead of them then? You putting Leicester ahead of them as well?
9 other teams probably, definitely.
No, Flav. I really don't think you can justify this one. You just didn't.
Where are you going to finish then?
At this moment, based on the business we've currently done, I actually think, if I'm being realistic, 5th.
Good.
I do think we're going to miss out.
I'll take that.
But I think that we will sign players, and then my mind will change. But as of right now, it's been such a difficult start to the window, because as much as I've tried to be optimistic, I'm like, until they're actually there, we have got such a shoestring squad now. So, what to do?
What happened here?
What happened there?
What happened there? Like, Dave's doing a Lee, like, what I mean? Like, just going on to that quickly, Dan. Like, I think that's really relevant to what Arsenal is like. Finn's squad, Chelsea, talking about. Can you believe it? Talking about Chelsea as a Finn squad and things like that. But the things that they were saying there, I sort of was relating it to Arsenal. I don't know if you was, and until we know this window and how it finishes, can we really judge? You know what I mean? I think that's how I look at it.
Well, listen, I think that was a really good, interesting conversation, that one, because for a Chelsea fan to sit there, hold their hands up and say, with the business we've done, I think we're 5th, that shocks me, Lee. I can't lie. So who does he think is going to get ahead of him then? Obviously, Man City and Liverpool's a given. Is he putting Liverpool? Is he putting
put Spurs and Arsenal?
Spurs and Arsenal. Is that what you said? Spurs and Arsenal. Wow, that's amazing as a Chelsea fan to sit there and believe that. I don't think Chelsea are going to have this free fall like everybody's predicting. I don't think this anticipation of Chelsea being down and outs in just scraping into Europa League spots is going to happen, mate. I can't lie. I don't know what your thoughts are, Lee. Let's quickly touch on that, because I think it's relative to what we've just been speaking about. Because I look at, what the business they've done. Koulibaly's coming in. Sterling's been signed. They're going to get another centre forward. They are. They will get another centre forward, Chelsea. They are not going to not replace Lukaku. It would be foolish to keep Havertz up top. So they're going to sign that. They've got Reece James and Chilwell, who are 2 of their best players at fullback, in my opinion, in terms of their style that they play. Kante's still got a couple of years left in him yet. I know he's on the decline as a footballer, but I still think he's decent. Kovacic and Jorginho and Mount. And obviously, they've still got, in my opinion, some very good players coming through their system. One being Conor Gallagher, one being Brower. Now, if they don't want to use Brower and Conor Gallagher, I think that's madness, personally, because I think 2 of those players have been Premier League proven and can do what they should be doing at Chelsea, which is be Chelsea footballers. So I don't understand why all of a sudden, with an elite manager in Thomas Tuchel, champions of Europe only last season, that we're going to sit there now and expect them to be scraping into the Europa League and not qualify for the top 4. I'm putting them 4th at the moment, the way I see things. What about you, Lee?
I actually said that they would miss out because I did, when I've done the show a couple of weeks ago, I did think that Arsenal would make more signings than what they have done. I'm going to be honest. A couple of weeks ago, I thought when we signed Jesus, I honestly thought we would sign two or three players. And I'm going to be really honest. I'm shocked that we haven't. And I'm not having making this a negative thing or whatever. Like I look at it and I've seen that midfield for a whole of last season. It's the same midfield as last season. It wasn't good enough last season. It wasn't strong enough. It wasn't physically strong enough, and it wasn't experienced enough. And when Partey and Xhaka got injured, it was a shambles. It was a shambles in January. It was a shambles. Patino come in and Lokonga, and we struggled then. Nothing's changed. So I find that amazing that we've not looked and addressed that at this moment in time. When and if we address that, then I would turn around and say that we've done a very say a good window, but I think it would be a very, very good window with Zinchenko coming in, Jesus, Vieira, that midfield player, whoever it is. I'm then looking at it and saying, then, a couple more bits and pieces, towards the end of the window. I think then, we'd look at it and say it's a good window. So, yeah, so from that point of view, I would do. I just feel that this moment in time, we're fighting it out with Man United. And I can't believe it. I was talking about this on the stream yesterday. I think it was on the stream yesterday. That Man United are in the same position as us with midfield players and not really strengthened it yet. They're trying to get the ongoing, trying to get that through. So they're looking at it. It looks like to me that they're trying to address it, and Arsenal are not. And so that bodes well for Man United that they are trying to do it, and we're not. And unless Arsenal are being very, very cagey about it, if they don't make that signing, I would be very, very disappointed. But, I do think there are problems with other clubs around there. Manchester United, Chelsea and Arsenal, I think, are going to be battling for that fourth place,
Yeah, I share your concerns, and we're going to come into it. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about last night first, and then naturally, we'll talk about some of the positions we're still lacking in and what we expect to see happening in the coming weeks. It's only 3 weeks, Lee, until Crystal Palace, mate. So we ain't got long left, and we've got a lot to do from what I saw last night. In the second half, there's still a lot that's needed. So I want to get your thoughts, first of all, mate, on last night's performance. Me and you watched it together. Unbelievably late night, but it was actually a good laugh. And it was quite nice and relaxed doing a watch-along where actually the result don't matter. The last watch-along me and you did together at AFTV was Newcastle Arsenal, and my boy, it was like chalk and cheese compared to last night in terms of the pressure. So first of all, I want to say it was actually a really enjoyable night. Good to see everyone. Good to be back into the swing of it. My thoughts before I ask you, I think there was probably two standout players. Jesus and Saliba, for me, were the two standout players. The rest of them, I think some look good, some look sharp, nothing outstanding, but some of them, Lee, definitely need to get out of the football club and very quickly and need to be replaced with some quality. So I want to get your general thoughts on last night's game, and then we'll go into some transfer news, mate.
Yeah, I was impressed with the first half, I have to say. Do you know what? I enjoyed the first half. I thought we put Everton on the back foot. Now, listen, pre-season, and this is what we've gone into the title. It's all a little bit overhyped or whatever, how you want to see it go on pre-season. I don't really look at it as results on pre-season, but what I do look is how well we're playing, what we're doing, is there anything different and all that. And I quite enjoyed that first half. We put Everton on the back foot. I look at it and think, last week people could turn around and say it was only Nuremberg, but Everton are a Premier League side. In pre-season now, it's completely changed now to what it used to be, Dan. You'd never play teams in Premier League. You play teams in the lower leagues and whatever, or maybe a team in Europe. But now you play like Chelsea, we've got Everton, Seville, sort of some real good tests coming up. And I quite like that. And I thought that first half was really, really good. The second half, Mikel didn't think of us fans in England because, we was going in into the early hours of the morning, and it was like hard to keep awake, but the first half I thought was very, very enjoyable. When I weren't feeling tired about watching that. In the second half, I was looking at me watching, thinking, how long ago it wasn't great. And that is the big thing for me. I don't know how everybody else feels about this. Not a criticism. I'm not being negative when I say this. Chalk and cheese between the first real squad and then the backups. There's too much of a gap, Dan. There's too much of a drop off. I've said it for weeks now. We have got to get like when we talk about Saliba quickly. I'm very, very impressed with him. Now people will turn around and go, Ben White is under pressure now, and who's going to play there? Not a lot of difference between them two, Dan, is there? If you play Ben White,
it's good.
That's what you want all around the whole team. We haven't got that. We've got it in the two areas. We had it with the goalkeepers last season, which, by the way, is going to be a massive drop off to what I've seen now, because Ramsdale and then Turner, there's a big gap there. I'm sorry, with Leno.
Great, does it?
No, with Leno and Ramsdale last season, you could, when Ramsdale was injured for a couple of games, Leno come in and was fantastic, so we're gonna lose that competition, but I think maybe Smith Rowe and Martinelli there's not much of a gap there. You could even say on the right hand side with Pepe and Saka, there's a gap, but it's not overly massive. You could actually play Smith Rowe on that side there, but realistically, I'm thinking one or two areas of the whole team there's hasn't really got that competition. El Nenny's come in. There's still a little bit of the gap smallens, but other than that, right back, left central defence, left back, wide right. There is a little bit of a gap with Saka and Pepe. I can't think you can argue with that. Centre forward Jesus and Eddie, there's a gap. What I've seen over the last couple of games, even though I'm going to say last night I was very, very impressed with Eddie. And midfield, there's too many gaps. There's not enough competition. I think that maybe now with Odegaard and Vieira, that narrows a little bit. So three areas. We've got to get that gap and up a little bit more. And no disrespect to Rob Holding, there's a massive drop off when he comes into the side. So we've got to up that game, and we've not done that this season. And for me, I'm very, very excited about Jesus. I'm going to say that now. What I've seen of him, that touch, I watched it again today for that goal. It's world class. Yeah, I don't care who you're playing against. Don't care if it's a friendly pre-season or whatever. That's class finish. And what I like about the title is, we're going overboard and that. We're not going overboard about it. But what I'm liking about him is that he's scoring goals now, so his confidence is getting bigger and bigger going into the first game of the season. He's not going into the first game of the season after three games and 3 defeats. He's going in there gradually, the way that you want him to go. Want big signings to go in there. You want your midfield player to be going in there like that. I'm really encouraged by his performances. I'm really encouraged that we've got him on the pre-season tour. I think it bodes very, very well for us, Dan.
Yeah, and I have to say, I totally agree with everything you're saying in relation to the drop-off to the second team, because it wasn't just this game last night for me, Lee. It was the Nuremberg one as well, because obviously you were out there. It was the other way, though, wasn't it? It was the first half, which was poor, because it was the B team playing. And then in the second half, when we put some of our first team players on, we started to look a bit better. This time it was the other way around. We started with a strong team, and then the second team was pretty much players that we either don't want or players that are drop-off. Now, I will say, to counteract that, we have got 5 or 6 players that are first team players that are out at the moment. So Tierney, Tomiyasu, Ramsdale. Obviously, we're looking like signing Zinchenko, which we'll come on to later. Fabio Vieira is going to be in and around the team when he's available. So I look at that and think fair play, because a lot of people were saying, let's calm down. A lot of those players aren't going to play. The annoying thing is, Lee, we're playing pre-season and we're getting the players we don't want fit. Let's try and get the players we do want fit. So that frustrates me. But I want to go into Jesus because I do think there are some fans, maybe not myself and you, that are hyping this up to be an absolutely genius piece of work. Now, it could be. Let me get you right. It could be. He could be an unbelievable signing, and I hope that he is. He's not played every game for Man City, so therefore he's not had the chance to score 20 or 30 goals like some people are predicting this season. But I just don't want fans to get too overhyped because I'm not expecting him to get 30 goals. I've said he'll get 15 this season, right? I've not sat there and said you're going to get 30 or 40 goals like I'm hearing. But when I look at what I have seen, it's exciting. So I want to get your opinions on why you think Jesus will be a good signing, or if you do, because I think you do. And also, do you think maybe there are some fans going proper nuts and over the top about this? Because from what I'm seeing on some of the reactions, it's a bit like, let's just calm down a little bit. This guy's good, but he's not going to be a Thierry Henry, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, listen, and you know what? I get why all the Arsenal fans are like this, Dan. I get it because we've not had a big signing for so many years.
It's been a while.
Do you know what I mean? It's been a while since fans can be excited about a signing. So we are going to go over the top, and that's because we've been starved of it for so long. So I get that, and I get why people are going over the top of it and all that because it hasn't happened for a while. Now I believe that he is going to be a good sign for us because I like what I see. I like his link-up play. What I liked about him yesterday, and whether I'm going over ball or not at this moment in his pre-season, when you look, you're looking to see what he can do and what his improvements are. I like the way he gets the ball, holds it up, lays it off, and then he's hitting the box. What Lacazette did last season, he done that, but then couldn't get into the box with a bit of pace or whatever, and he's doing it very, very well. And Eddie's doing very well as well by holding it up and coming inside that, and going and doing what he's doing. But what I think with Jesus is he's just going to give us just a little bit more energy, a little bit more sharpness in and around the box, and ball comes across there and finishing goals and all like that, So I think that that was very, very good. So, and I am excited by the signing. I've got to say that because for the first time in a long while, he looks like he's going to improve our front three. You know what I mean? Like I felt last season we was lacking a little bit. Like I felt we was not quite there. When you look at somebody like Aubameyang can get into that off the shoulder thing, but he couldn't hold the ball up, couldn't hold it up for Toffee. Jesus looks like he can do both, and I think that I think also with Jesus, what I'm excited about, Dan, I don't know how you feel about this, is I feel that he has a point to prove, and I think that point to prove. He may have won titles and all that, but he wasn't the main man. And I think now, right, I'm at a big club now. I want to prove myself as the main man. And you know what? I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing for him, and it's a good thing for us. So I'm excited by the signing. I like him as a player. I like what he's bringing. I like what he's doing and all that. But I'm not going to go overboard about it at this moment in time. But I can see why fans are, and you know what, like that, I don't blame Arsenal fans for going overboard about him and all that, because as I say, if you've not eaten for 6 weeks, you know what I mean, and they put some porridge in front of you, you're going to look at it and go, it's fantastic. You know what I mean, like whether it ain't.
That's a good analogy, mate. It's a very good analogy, and I think you're right. I think there are fans out there. I had actually had a conversation, which I was going to ask you tonight, and I hold off from it just now, but it does link with that. Mate, I'm kind of with you, but what I will say is we'll concentrate on what I think Jesus is going to bring to Arsenal and why I think he's going to be good. Now, when I was asked a question not too long ago from someone, what are the 2 strikers you want at Arsenal? Because everybody believed we needed 2 strikers. I still do think we do. I think we need another one. A lot of people are saying, no, Jesus, that's it. Jesus and Eddie is done. I think we need another one. The reason I wanted Tammy Abraham and Gabriel Jesus was because I think that they were both hungry to prove a point. And Jesus wants to prove a point because he wants to think, do you know what? You might have bought Haaland, but I still am a good player. And you shouldn't have got rid of me, and I'm going to prove to you why you shouldn't have. Tammy Abraham is going to say, Chelsea got rid of me. I banged in goals for Roma, and now I'm going to do it for Arsenal and prove to Chelsea why they shouldn't have got rid of me. That's why I wanted them 2 players. The other thing I like about Gabriel Jesus is his mentality and his leadership qualities, because already you can see people are looking around him. They're liking him. He's connected. He's gelled. He looks like he's played with us for weeks. That means he's obviously got some good mentality and leadership qualities. The other thing I like about him is his intensity and his press. And I think that although Lacazette could do that last season, he was just a bit of a lump at times. And I think that was just completely out of his game now in terms of the lack of his finishing. Sometimes he pressed well, sometimes he didn't, if I'm honest with you. I think with Gabriel Jesus, he is, as Arteta said in the press conference last night, chaos for defenders. He is. And I think that is going to be massively key when it comes to playing in a style that Mikel Arteta, I think, wants as a number 9, because he hasn't really signed one yet. So that's the kind of positives to Gabriel Jesus' game. But I want to ask you this, Lee, because it's relevant as to what you were just saying about why fans might get excited. People have been told, get excited by Josh Kroenke. People are now getting excited when we're signing Gabriel Jesus. Who was the last world-class player, in your opinion, that played for Arsenal? Who do you think?
That's a good question. I had this conversation last night as well. I come up with a conclusion. Probably Aubameyang, when we signed Aubameyang, was probably the last one. Before that, Sanchez.
There you go. So I would have said it was Alexis Sanchez, and that was 4 years ago now that he left. Was that right? Something like that. Maybe is it five? Time flies,
5 years since 5 years since we signed him. When it has got to be 5, or maybe even longer than that.
Yeah, no, it's longer than 5 since we signed him. But what I was meaning was we haven't had somebody for a good 5 years. Was what I was trying to get at. And I think that's why people
you can argue that you could. Yeah. There is an argument for Aubameyang, you know what I mean? Like,
there is. No, you're right. And to be fair to him, maybe I was being harsh on Oba, but the way they ended the last couple of seasons.
Do you know
what I mean?
You could say that about Sanchez as well, but mate, you're right. You know what I mean? But
it's been a long time. Is my point. So we've had at least a few seasons where and world class is for me is used way too much. Like I wouldn't even class Alexis Sanchez as world class. If I'm honest with you, if I had to pick one though, it would be class. Yeah, but if I had to pick one, I'd say he was probably the closest to world class. So when you look back in history, we are being told that we've got this amazing process, and we've had to wait 5 years even to get a top class player in at the club since Alexis Sanchez. That's a worry for me moving forward because I don't see any top class players coming in really. Because Jesus is a class player, but do you think, wow, like he is going to be, top 10 sort of in the world strikers? No. And that's what my problem is at the moment. We're not at that level now, Arsenal. We're not going to go and sign somebody in the top 5 in the world. There's no Henry's, Vieira's types coming here. We're not going to go and put in a bid for Lewandowski because Barca are going to get him. We're not going to go and look at even somebody in the class of N'Golo Kante now, because they're not going to have the wages to pay somebody like him. So I look at that, and I'm not saying they'll both be great signings, by the way. I'm just giving examples of what is world-class in that bracket and what Arsenal are going for. So we might get a great player like Gabriel Jesus, and we'll be happy with that. We might get Tielemans. I'd be happy with that. Paqueta, a lot of people are saying that'll be a really good signing. My point is, it's never going to be a top-class, world-class talent because of where we're at right now. And that's why I don't like this process, because of where we've been put, in my opinion, underachieving.
I agree with that to a certain extent, but I have to say that Arsenal have never really signed world class players, even through the great time. If you go back to whenever, Dan, under Arsene Wenger when we was winning titles, like, there was never really world class players that come. Potentially world class players coming. Players that excite. And this is when I say when you look at players coming in. For instance, I'm just going to bring a couple of players off the cuff that come into me. Patrick Vieira excited me, didn't excite me when we signed him, didn't know him. Excited me after 20 minutes against Sheffield Wednesday. I was then excited. Nicolas Anelka was another one. When I actually see him, I thought, wow, exciting. Thierry Henry wasn't a great signing when he first came, if I'll be honest. He was on the back of the
Fabregas, Van Persie, Sanchez, they all did, though. They all excited me, those three.
They all come through.
They weren't world class, but you get my point. They all excited me.
So you go to the ones that have really been big signings for us. I don't think have ever really worked for us, Dan. And I mean this like, I'm going back before your time. Arsenal signed Malcolm McDonald when we was in the doldrums. He was the record signing player. He was great for Arsenal, but he never really hit the heights that he should have done. Charlie Nicholas was another one. Tim's just put in the chat. Andre Arshavin was another one that was a big signing for us. So not necessarily
Jose Antonio Reyes. That was another one. Reyes was another
you know
one.
what I mean?
I liked him, but he was supposed to be the next best player in the world. But it's never going to happen.
When he first came into the team. Do you remember that against Chelsea? Oh, my God, he was exciting.
Unbelievable.
He was an exciting player. Perhaps Dennis Bergkamp was, but when I look at Dennis, I think maybe he was having a bit of a tough time at Inter Milan. I'll tell you another one that was probably, Mark Overmars was definitely up there. Just come back from a bad injury when we took a bit of a gamble on him. I look at Sol Campbell would probably be one that we brought in. But if you have a look back at all the great players that we had, Robert Perez wasn't a world-class player when he came to Arsenal. He was a very, very good player. Ashley Cole, it all come through the ranks, of it all. Henry was world-class, wasn't world-class when he signed. I tell you what, people like David Suker was another one. Do you remember?
That's a great shout. Top scorer in the World Cup, and then we got him, and he did.
When he come to Arsenal,
so did I. He scored some belters, but he didn't really hit the next level.
Really hit the road. So as your mum just put, Robert Perez was
class act.
Was world class, but he wasn't world class or thought of that until he came to the Arsenal. So I look at that, and that's the point I'm making. Arsenal have never really gone down that road of going that way, even when we've been with the great teams. Freddie Lumber, what a player he was. He wasn't a superstar when he first come to the club. So I give Arsenal a break on that, but we've got to start, and it's down on, listen, Arsene Wenger will have to take a lot of credit for a lot of those players.
Mark's just put it in the chat. Wenger turned most of his signings into world-class players, and he did actually say, didn't he? He quoted it. I think it was something along the lines of, we don't sign world-class players, we create them. We make them, and that's a great point.
That's on Arteta now to make that happen. I honestly think that if I'll be really honest about it, when you go back to Sanchez, I think he was a very, very good player at Barcelona. I think he'd become a better player at Arsenal because the same thing with Jesus. He became the main man,
aren't they? They're comparing the two now. They're saying he was Peter Sanchez.
That. I'm holding out on that. I am as well. Think that Sanchez become here and he engulfed everything with Arsenal and it took him on. And I think that's something that I'm hoping that Jesus will do as well. So we was talking about this last night as well. Massive season for Odegaard this season because he has got to come out of it. He's had a year and a half here now. It's time to perform regularly, people criticise, going back about Robert Perez, people criticise him at first when he came to the club because it took him 6 months. Love and behold, 6 months to before he become the superstar. We're giving these players far too much time now. Like Martinelli's had a couple of years now. I want to see Martinelli kicking on this season. Odegaard definitely has got to kick on this season, Ben White's had a year here now. Got to kick on, I'm afraid, Dan. Push on. Tierney's got to push on. These guys have got
Martinelli. There's a lot of them that have got to get
another
year of development.
And that comes down to the coaching staff and Mikel Arteta as well. So it's a real big thing for him. Great point there from saying Cazorla. What a fantastic player he was. What I mean?
Yeah, it's top quality, mate. And I want to come into this just quickly before we go into some of the rumours that are around and some of the signings we think are imminent. I want to quickly touch on Saliba last night because I thought he was really impressive and what you think it means for Arsenal centre-back position because I believe it's a really good thing. I don't actually care that Ben White might now be a little bit competitive for that position because, as we said earlier, I want to see that in every position. Odegaard as well. I don't want to be too harsh on this guy because I do think he's a really nice footballer to watch. I need to see some goals and assists from him this coming season, Lee. And a lot of people say that he was a better signing than Maddison. I just don't understand how people can say that. I don't get how that makes any sense. Maddison scored 16 goals and got 12 assists, and people are still trying to tell me that Odegaard was a better signing. I don't get that. So I look at him and say, you need to show everybody why you are this potential world-class talent player that everyone keeps talking about, because I do not see how this guy gets so much love, because he does not, in my opinion, turn up when it matters. I really don't see that. And I do see him disappear. And I do see some Mesut Ozil vibes. I don't see Mesut Ozil mentality, thank God, but I do see some Mesut Ozil vibes where on a tough night he goes missing. And I don't want those players. I'm done with those players. So he's going to, for me, get a lot of criticism this season coming if he doesn't start to turn up to games, because this is what we're supposed to have signed him for. He's supposed to be instrumental in our midfield and creative. And when you got like 3 goals and 4 assists, that don't fill me with joy, Lee. So maybe I'm being harsh, but I think he's got to turn up this season, Lee.
Yeah, I think that you're right on that. I'm a big fan of Uliga. I think he's a very, very good player, but he's got to start hitting numbers now that are going to start pushing us. I feel that I do think with Uliga, and I think he does go missing from the creativity side of it, but he still works hard. He puts a shift in. I think that Arsenal fans and fans in general, you know, when they see someone working hard, will give him the benefit. And that's why I think he gets a little bit of a free ride. Not free ride, but you know what I mean? Like, gets a little bit more leeway because he does work hard and he does put in the shift. I like that. But if you're going to be captain of this football club, you've got to lift up your game. He's got to go up a level. And I mean by going up a level is, like, as you're saying, getting into double figures. He has to get into double figures. In his position, he has to get minimum 10 goals. Not 4.
Do you think Jesus will help that, Lee? Because I do.
Yeah, I do.
Jesus,
I do.
Yeah.
I think that. Yeah, I do think that will help. I think that it breaks down a little bit more, like, you know what I mean. So I do think that will help because, you know, there is this thing now, creativity will help and all that, like, you know. But also, I think getting into areas and little pockets might be a few free kicks for him and all that, like. But I'm at the set now is that if you're playing in that position, which is a pivotal part of how you play and what Mikel wants to do and everything like that, he has to deliver 10 goals. If he doesn't, then you've got to be looking at maybe Vieira coming in and doing whatever like that. But obviously, I think that maybe Mikel's looking at that and going, putting a little bit of pressure on him with that, like, you know, and that is what he can do. He's no Frank Lampard, Chris. I know he's no Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard used to get 20 goals, so I'm not pushing him to get like that. But I think at that level, in that position that you play, which is a nice little free roll, not free roll, but you know what I mean, Dan. It's the best position to play on the football field, I think. Free roll, you know what I mean, in the football sense. You've got to produce from there. And so I am with you on this one. It is a massive, massive season for him. Do I think that he will do? Yes. If I had money on it, I'm going to say it now. I'm backing on the guy.
Yeah, you did say you think he'll be the most excited player and the most improved player. So I hope you're right, man. Because I like him to watch. I think he's a beautiful player to watch at times. I just do question where the goals are going to come in midfield, and he's the one I'm looking at. Because Xhaka don't score, Partey don't score, Lokonga don't score, El Neni don't score. It's going to have to be Ødegaard next season for me. Let's quickly touch on Saliba, mate. I thought he was exceptional last night, Lee. I really did. And I know that people will say, "Oh, it's only a friendly," but this was against a really good centre forward that people are saying, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I do feel that he has all the attributes and the stature to be a fantastic centre-half. And I know people like to hype up, but actually the reason I'm hyping this one up a little bit more than others is because I've seen enough evidence to suggest that there is a hell of a player in here. At 21 years old, France international, player of the year 3 times out of 3 for France in the last 3 seasons, tells me everything I want to know about a potential player that we need to try and keep hold of and play in a team, mate.
With you. Do you know, you can criticise Everton as much as you like last night. What was the one thing that we was all saying that they were? Aggressive.
Physical and aggressive. Yeah.
Physical. You know, put it about last night, didn't they? You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't question his physicality. Now, I remember, I'm not having a go at Ben White. When was this? But Ben White had an awful time against Brentford in that first game, physicality-wise, and people then turned around and were a little bit wary of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you couldn't be about that with Saliba yesterday. You just looked at that with a lot of confidence going, I'll tell you what, that's what we need. I like big, strong central defenders. You know, when I played football, you know, you stand in a tunnel and you've got a big 6'4" guy next to you who's your centre half. You know, he's going to win you most headers. May not be the greatest footballer in the world, but when it comes down, he's going to win the most headers. He's going to get in the tackles, and you're going to pick up the pieces from it. That I quite like that. On top of that, you know, you look at somebody like Ben White and also so they can play. I was very interested to see what he could do yesterday on the ball. Very, very comfortable for a big fella on the ball. Got the ball down, played well. I like him, what I see of him yesterday. It's what I would say is a good start for him to on a base. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't see him being lost out of it and all that. Now, this could be a masterstroke from the club if they give him those 2-3 years, loaned him out instead of been sitting on the bench and whatever. Like, you know, he's been getting game time, getting this and getting that, getting experience. He comes to us now in much better shape than when he was as a teenager with no experience. So I think, you know, this for me, you know, Ben White has got a real difficult job on his hand to get into this team on a regular basis. And I'm going to say this now. Maybe Arsenal go with a back three, Dan. Maybe. I've seen in the last 2 games, they've played a back three in the second half or one half, whatever, I don't know. But I've seen them playing a big back three. So let's see what can happen there. But I'm liking what I'm seeing on that. Yes, I agree that we ain't going to have a yardstick on Everton or Nuremberg. But somewhere along the line, you've got to have games and to say, like, well, this is where we are and whatever. This is what pre-season's for, to judge, to have a look, to analyse, you know. What I see yesterday, I was very, very impressed with.
Yeah, I have to agree. And for me, it's his distribution and passing that really shone through for me, Saliba. I think he's very comfortable on the ball, very good passer of the football. I think he's definitely got the stature and all the physical presence to be a good centre-half. 6'4", brilliant in the air, good tackler, looks to stand up, looks to have good positioning. For a 21-year-old, I'm looking at this player thinking, okay, yeah, I can see the hype now. I understand why people thought you were going to be great at 18 years old, because you've proved to me already from what I've seen in France and now for the first few games for Arsenal that you've definitely got the attributes there, and I hope that it continues. You're going to see mistakes because he's 21, but actually, I think from what I've seen, it's enough to excite me that he's going to be a good centre-half. Someone's made a good point in the chat earlier about Ben White being bullied by Ivan Toney, Callum Wilson and Ollie Watkins. He doesn't think that would happen with Saliba. I certainly think he's better aerially than Ben White. Ben White does not have great ability in the air from what I can see. So I think this will be an interesting position. I do agree with you, Lee. Back three is an option. And the reason I think back three is an option is because I would probably look at it as an option against the likes of Liverpool and City.
Yes.
Sometimes we need to shut up shop. You know, go to Anfield, go to the Etihad, play Saliba in there, Tomiyasu and Tierney on the fullbacks with those 3 at the back. And I think we make it hard for any team then. So I think that's a good option. And it's interesting, wasn't it, last night to see that formation come into play in the Nuremberg game. I believe it did as well. So I think that for me is a great option.
Yeah, I do, and I think it's something that we may do. And I don't see us playing that against some teams. But I think that a bit of flexibility to our team as well. Like, you know, we can go to Liverpool, we can go to Manchester City, we go to Tottenham, those sort of places, Manchester United, defend well and it seems on the break, you know. Like, so I think that it's an option for us and a good option. But for me, Saliba, you know, look, going back to, you know, I was reading today, Ben White hasn't played a game yet. Doesn't look like he's going to be playing in America. I think he's just going to be training. Don't look like he's going to be playing. The same with Tomiyasu. The same with Kieran Tierney. You know what I mean? These players are like are not going to be fit. You know, I'm not going to have too much.
The one that worried me was Fabio Vieira, who's got a bone problem. Something wrong with his butt. Right, yeah. I mean, we've signed someone who's been in a boot since we've signed him. That's a worry.
Well, you know, exactly. So, like, this is a big worry for me. Like, you know, so you know, there's plenty of things for us to work on. You know, so like, listen, you know, if Ben White hasn't played a pre-season game, then Saliba plays against Crystal Palace, and then Ben White's in trouble as far as I'm concerned, because I think that Saliba could nail down a position by the time he gets back into the team. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I'm excited. But let's get this straight. People are trying to say, "Oh, it's a signing." He's not. He's been at this club for 3 years. I'm not having him down. And
Emery signed him, for goodness' sake.
It's a great transfer window because we got Saliba. But no, Saliba's been there all the time. He doesn't count. Right? Let's get that safely and firmly down. He is an Arsenal player. It doesn't count. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he will be a very, very good addition to the squad this season and hopefully the team.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. Let's touch on some of these transfer rumours, mate. One of them is obvious, the imminent signing, we believe, of Zinchenko. I want to get your opinion, not just on the player, Lee, but where you think he's going to play. And this, for me, is a massively interesting one, mate, because I believe we may have our centre midfielder, and that worries me. The reason it worries me is because I still feel that we need more in that position. Now, I like Zinchenko. I really like him as a player. I think he's got all the right attributes. He's definitely good enough mentally. He's a winner. He's got 4 Premier Leagues. He can play left back, defensive mid from what I hear, and left centre mid. So that's definitely a versatile player right there. But I feel like we might need a backup to Thomas Partey still. And I do like the rumours of Tielemans and Paqueta. So are you looking at Arsenal to say, job done, we've got our midfield, and look at other areas? Or are you still hoping for some more players in that area of the team, mate?
Well, I think that it should be a brilliant assessment to see where we are, because if Arsenal think that that's enough, then we know that they've not got the ambition to try and get into the first and foremost to get into the top 4 and win the league, or even win the league. You know what I mean? If you want to be challenging for, I'm not saying we're going to challenge for the league, but you know what I mean, like pushing up there, you've got to get a midfield in there. I'm happy with Zinchenko coming in, and for me plays at left back, because Kieran Tierney's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season. It's not going to be. You know what I mean? And I don't care what anybody says. Kieran Tierney does not last the season. So for me, this is what he'll come in and he'll do the business. And I'll be very, very disappointed if it were. I think there'd be Zinchenko would be one, and there'd be another. I think there'd be one more, a midfield player. I really strenuously.
And do you think that midfielder will be more of a Thomas Partey backup, or like a Tielemans to play?
I think like Tielemans or someone like that, or they get someone in midfield. We need to improve that midfield. I don't care what anybody says. Partey will not stay fit. He's been here at 2.5 years or 2 years now. Hasn't played more than 5 or 6 games. Never got to 10 games consecutive, and I mean that sincerely. Even if he doesn't play Europa League, forget about that. 10 league games on the spin, he will not do. So we need to get somebody in there to go in there. Now I look at that, and the Zinchenko one pleases me, because all of a sudden now I'm not going to be worried about Tierney whether he's playing or not. Then. Listen, I'll tell you about Tierney, and I don't care what anybody says. He done 30 minutes last week and then come off, right? And I had to be on the group chat saying, don't worry about it. He's doing some extra work now and all that. This was planned and all that, because people were going, oh, he's injured again. Too many. If he goes down, everybody's worried. Why? Because they know what he's like, you know what I mean? Because, oh, no, he's going to be out for a while, and that's going to make us...
And I think what's importantly, just quickly, I think what's important is when they say, oh, no, the reason we say, oh, no, is because he's a top-quality player.
Yes!
And I know you think, you know what I mean? I know you think I'm biased, and I love him, and I do love him.
I agree.
But I think he's quality.
Totally agree, and that's why, you know what I mean? Like, I think he's a great defender, but unfortunately, he's never fit enough. It was a problem when he first come to the team, Dan. Like, you know what I mean? I remember a Celtic fan saying to me, like, you've got one hell of a player there if he stays fit. And that's it with him. I'm not saying I've lost my patience, because I really, really like him, like, you know what I mean? So I believe, that's it there. Listen, someone said that, what Paul Merson told me the other week about 2 signings. Edu said it the other week. He said that there will be signings. Don't worry. You will be excited. And a couple of them. Zinchenko does excite me a little bit, But I'll tell you what, if we was to get a midfield player, and I don't care who it is, I just want to see an upgrade on what we've got at this moment. And if it is, then do you know what? Then I will be excited about that. If we got Shinzenko, whatever his bloody name is, and then we get say like Tillemans, I'm going to sit here and go, do you know what? I'm happy with that transfer window. Now it's over to the players and to you, Mikel, to do the business, because that is good enough to get us somewhere. Maybe a little bit of moving around players over, like maybe like getting a couple of players out and whatever, like, you know what I mean? Chinchenko, right, got it, like, you know.
No, it's not. So, Dave is mucking around. It's Zinchenko,
right, you know what I mean? Zinchenko. I quite like, but if we can get Zinchenko, Tillemans, we may be at the end of the window, maybe swap Pepe for somebody else, or do you know what I'm saying? Just like, Maitland-Niles goes and we bring in like all of those things like that. Then I'm happy. But what I really want going into that first game against Crystal Palace, I do want another midfield player and Zinchenko in that squad.
And I think you're absolutely fair, mate, to say that. And I do feel like there's a lot to do. I still feel there's a lot of outgoings. I still feel there's a few players there last night that we just need to get rid of. I expect to see the following leave: Leno. I expect to see Bellerin leave. I expect to see Pablo Mari leave. I expect to see Lucas Torreira leave. I expect something to happen with Maitland-Niles, and I expect something to happen with Nicolas Pepe. That might mean there's some other youngsters as well. We might see Reece Nelson go out on loan again, Balogun go out on loan again. But actually, when you look at the first sort of 14 or 15 players there with our new signings, I think that is still quite short. So there's still definitely 4 or 5 players I think we need, and I have my doubts that we're going to get that 4 or 5 players. I just want to touch quickly, Lee, before we go to Super Chats, on Leroy Sané. There's a lot of rumours that we're interested in Leroy Sané. Now, it's fine, because I would love to be interested in him. I think there's a lot of teams that would be interested in him. Whether he's going to leave or not is different. Now, what I will say is that from all the rumours you heard about Mikel Arteta at Man City, and I'm going back 3-4 years now, that was the one player, along with Raheem Sterling, that apparently Mikel Arteta improved greatly. So there's a massive connection and a relationship already built there between Mikel Arteta and Leroy Sané. Now, I've not heard any rumours about him wanting to leave Bayern Munich, and I'd be really amazed if he did leave. Now, there's no point in me asking the question, do you think that would be a good signing? Because it would be more than a good signing. It would be a great signing. This player is wicked. But do you realistically see this one happening, Lee?
Maybe towards the end of the window, something like that. I think that... you look at someone like Sane, if you be honest about it, they've got Gnabry, now they've got Mane there. Maybe he's not going to play as much as he would like to. I don't know. He's struggled since going to Bayern Munich as well. Like, it hasn't quite happened for him. But that doesn't mean to say it's a wrong move for him to go to Arsenal. Thierry Henry didn't work for him at Juventus, but look what happened there. So he's got Premier League experience. One thing that puts me off him a little bit is that he got that bad knee injury, and he's never been quite the same from that. So when you're paying 60 million for a player like that, I'm not all in for that really. Like 35, 40 million maybe, But we'll have to wait and see. But I think there could be some legs in it. I do feel we're getting this little bit because he's played with Mikel Arteta. There's that connection and all that. But listen, Arsenal want a wide player. They've made that clear, haven't they? And they're prepared to spend 50 million or 45 million, according to Tom, for him, like 45 million and £1, I believe. But anyway, they was prepared to spend that money on it, so they are looking. So we'll have to wait and see. I think maybe. If the price is right, maybe.
Yeah, fair play, man. I don't see it happening. I can't lie. Big up tapping Tobes. Tobes is in the chat. He says, Sane isn't coming, lads. Let's be real. He wants Champions League football. Gnabry loves your club and still didn't entertain a move to you and decided to re-sign. He'd be epic for you, though, and well worth it. Big up Tobes. If you haven't done so already, go over to tapping Tobes. Smash a subscribe on his stuff. Great guy. I must say, Lee, I kind of with him. I don't see this one happening. We're not in the Champions League. The only thing that would be is that he wants to come and try a new challenge and buy into this project like apparently Jesus and some of the others have. I just don't see it happening, Lee. I really don't. So I think we have to kind of go on.
And if you don't want to, then see you later. I don't want players like that. I keep saying I don't want players. I want to play Champions League football. I want them to, that is why I like Giroud. I can't even say his name right now. Jesus. I'm excited about Jesus because not only I think he's a good player, that he wanted to come to Arsenal because it's Arsenal and he wanted to play for Arsenal. Now, he had offers to go to Champions League football, didn't want to entertain them. So I'm pleased with that. So let's just... that's the sort of players that I want to embrace. You know what I mean? That's why I'm quite excited about him coming. You know what I mean? Like, so we'll wait and see what comes. And if Sani comes... I'll be excited about that because you know what, he isn't coming because of Champions League football. He's coming because he wants to play and perform and do well for Arsenal. I'll take those players all day long. I had an argument with Robbie about when I said about Rafinha. I said I didn't want Rafinha. He wants to go to Barcelona. Don't want him. Didn't want to entertain it in the first place. I want players that want to come to Arsenal Football Club, and that's the end of it. And if it's got, they say, I want Champions League football, go and get that wherever. And I'll tell you that you can go to Spurs. You're only guaranteed it for a season because you don't know what's going to happen next season. You don't know what's going to happen with Chelsea at the moment. The only two teams you're going to get Champions League football guaranteed for at the moment is Liverpool and Manchester City. And when Liverpool lost a few players last season, they only just got into Champions League the year before last. So if you want to go Champions League and you're guaranteed that, go and play in Spain, go and play in France and with PSG where you're guaranteed it week in, week out, year in, year out. In the English Premier League, you're not guaranteed of Champions League football. That is a fact.
Fair play. Last few minutes, guys, we're going to bring in some super chats. So we'll bring up the first one now. First one of the night. Legend. He's back with his Big Mac fund, Lee. He says, McDowell's Human Resources Department. Love it. 5 for the Big Mac fund, he says. My concern is that we will see goal output from Eddie Nketiah to complement Jesus. I feel like a target man may be needed. What's your honest thoughts on this, Lee? Because me and Robbie last night agreed and said that we do need a target man still. A number 9, somebody of a different profile to look. Remember we had Giroud and we obviously used him as our first choice, but he was a different dimension centre forward. I still feel there's a need for that at Arsenal, mate.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, we went into this time last season, with no European football, with 4 strikers. We're going into this season with European football, more games with 2 strikers because Balogun is going to be out on loan as soon as he comes back from America, or so we're being told. So I think that we do need someone there. Like now, yes, Martinelli can go down the middle and play that role. But ultimately, he's a little bit like Jesus, a little bit like Eddie, and we want someone that's going to be completely different. So, I don't think you're going to be spending 50, 60 million pound on that player. Maybe getting in someone for 10, 15, that's coming to the end of their career, like in their 30s, maybe that can come in there and is going to get a certain amount of games and that. But that is what I think maybe we certainly need someone like that. And because there's going to be times when the game's not going well for you, and you can just say, oh, I know it's old school and all that, lump it in the box, see what happens. But sometimes that gets you a goal, Dan, you know what I mean? So, listen, it happened with Giroud many a times, you know what I mean? Put the cross in. I remember that goal against Leicester in the last couple of minutes. You remember we went 4-3 on a Friday night? That's what it wants to be. So, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But I don't think it's a priority.
Well, I would love to see it. I still feel we need one. I don't know who's going to be coming in realistically because unless we spend a lot of money, I can't see somebody coming through the door. A lot of people are saying that we might need to go for somebody like Ivan Toney. I don't know that we'd go for him. The players that I'd want are all going to be too much. So
I like Ivan Toney, by the way.
Yeah, I like Ivan Toney. I can't lie, but I'm not so sure that we'll go for him. Undisputed Boxing has said, without a striker who scored, how could he last season? I imagine that's in regards to Erdegaard trying to be creative. That's why, Lee, I think we're both saying, aren't we, that Erdegaard has a big season now that he has a striker in front of him, and
The
obviously
excuses
Saka
are not there for him, are they?
I agree, and Saka and all of the others are obviously going to be developed in for another season as well. So fair play. Thanks for your super chat. Next one up is Smoky Settings. Says, are you with Mr. Lee Gunner's views on Arsenal boys? I think we'll both have a say on this. I do believe personally that a lot of what Lee Gunner says is absolute facts. I think he speaks facts. He demands the best of Arsenal, and he wants what's best for the club, and that's to be going for titles and major honours again. I think he's fair to say, and I've spoken to him, and I know you have, Lee, that sometimes he goes about things the wrong way, but he says it how it is, in my opinion. And I think that when people come for him and start saying that he's toxic and out of order to the club, actually what he's trying to do is demand the best. And I get it sometimes. I get, oh, you and Lee Gunner this, you and Lee Gunner that. Actually, we're quite different. There's a lot of our opinions that are different, but a lot of them are very similar. He goes to, I go a lot more for the ownership than he does. He doesn't really see the ownership as a problem because they spend loads of money. I disagree with that. And I also believe the first 11 is better than he thinks. There are a lot of players he doesn't actually rate in the first 11. So there's a lot of differences between me and Lee Gunner. But when I look at it, what he does, I've got nothing wrong with anything that he says. I think he demands the best for the club. So what's your thoughts, judges?
Listen, he's got an opinion, and it's a very, very brutal one at times. And sometimes I agree with him. I'm not going to lie. But I have to say that he doesn't go about it in the right way. But listen, that ain't going to get him the views that he gets. He's a very, very, I'm going to say this now about Lee. Whether you love him or you don't, he's very, very clever in my book. You know what I mean? Like what he does, he gets the fan base opinionated. He gets traction from it. And, so I ain't got no problems with Lee. You know what I mean? Like, and this is what I don't understand. Like, because I don't agree with some of the things that Lee does, I don't mean saying I'm going to hate what he says and whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't agree with every, my own mates at times. And that, do you know what? That's what football. We go on a train, we'll go on and we'll argue about, whether it be Mikel Arteta this and, some think he's great and some don't. And we don't have an argument. There's a discussion about it and all that. And that's what makes it healthy. But like, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting the best for your club.
100%. I'm exactly the same. I demand the best, and people think that's wrong and it's toxic if you do that. I don't get that. I think if you're playing an elite sport, the aim is to win. And Lee Gunner is very, very similar in that opinion to me. So that's what I would say on that. Next one is super chat from hey 0011 says, hello gents, with all the transfers done so far, can both of you give us your current top 6 prediction? Thank you from New York. Big up yourself. I'll go first, Lee.
Go on. As it stands
all the transfers done so far. So as things stand, I'm going to go with this as a top 6. First, the winners of the Premier League, Man City. Second, Liverpool. Third, Spurs. Fourth, Chelsea. Fifth, Man United. Sixth, Arsenal. That's what I'll go. Go for it.
As it currently stands now, I agree with everything there, but I'll swap Arsenal with Man United because Manchester United at this moment in time are like us that have not addressed their midfield issues. Their midfield is as poor as ours. And I mean the front two, the two, not the Fernandes and the Odegaard role, the two that are in there. They've got McTominay and Fred. We've got Xhaka and Partey. That needs to be improved. Both of them need to improve, but I just think Aaron's slightly better than theirs at the moment. So that is the only reason I'll go. But as it currently stands at the moment, that can all change. Let's get that completely and utterly right. If Arsenal bring in a midfield player, I am putting Arsenal in the top 4.
Fair play, man. Fair play. There's a lot of people in the chat saying, yeah, spot on, no, disagree. Oh, we think 5th, 6th. Oh, no way. That's too negative. Have faith. This is what it Arsenal opinion fan base is. As we were just saying, it's all very, very different. But we can all get on, people. This one comes in from, am I going to say this right? Goran Talis. We'll take that. We're always told it's just pre-season, he says. If we lose, but those same people are now lauding Jesus for scoring against Everton, who was 16th last year. Listen, I do understand what you're saying, Lee. We do have to be realistic and understand that Everton are a poor outfit at the moment. But at the same time, we can only beat who's in front of us. And I've been impressed with some of the play over pre-season from certain individuals. Saliba being one of them, Jesus being another. And of course, there's been some bits and pieces that we've seen in between. So I do think there is a part of it to be realistic. But at the end of the day, if you're winning games of football, then you have to be a little bit positive at least, don't you, Lee?
Yeah, and it's a great super chat because I've had conversations with people when we was losing to Nuremberg. Don't worry, it's only pre-season, and then the same people are put in the chat. Oh, Jesus is brilliant, and this is this and that. You know what I mean? Like, so you know, you can flip it or flip flop or whatever to the way that it suits you. Put the coin to whatever side suits you at this moment in time. If you want to go down the route of it being like, yeah, you want to be excited because what you're seeing in pre-season, you can. If you want to go down the other route, you can at the moment. I don't look at results and everything like on pre. What I look on pre-season, I always have done, is like to see how the team's going and how it's going. Last season, I did stress out in pre-season because I see what was coming. Do you know what I mean? Like, we wasn't ready for the beginning of the season. You could tell that we was not ready for the beginning of the season. I feel that this moment in time, we're still not ready for the beginning of the season because defensively we've got players missing and all that. So that needs to be addressed in the next week or so. So if we do get in Zinchenko and he plays, then we've got Saliba, Gabriel, and hopefully Tomiyasu. That ain't a bad back four.
I agree. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Lee, that's absolutely flown by, mate. That's an hour of chat, and it's gone
that's
like about 20
unbelievable,
minutes.
isn't it, like?
Unbelievable. But massive interaction in the chat. There was over like nearly 1,300 people watching at one stage. Amazing stuff.
Thank you very much. Cheers,
thank
guys.
you all so much. You guys are mad. If you could smash a like and a subscribe on this video, that would be amazing. And support the content. Come and follow myself and Lee Judges on all socials. That would be amazing. Love to interact with you gooners and see how things are for you guys at the moment. Are you excited? Are you not happy? Are you okay with business? Are you calm? Are you getting worried? Let us know, man. We're going to be back for regular content, probably if we can, daily over the next coming weeks, because we believe that the transfer window, as you all, fingers crossed, are hoping, will hot up. So we're going to try and provide as much content as we can. If it's not daily, it will be every other day because me and Lee do have lives. But we are busy people, but we will try and provide content because you guys are just mad coming back for us all the time. So absolutely love the fact that you're enjoying it. Love the entertainment and interaction in the chat and the difference of opinions. We're going to be back very, very soon, guys. If you can do me one more favor, you can flip over and support my new channel. I'd absolutely love you. I'm on the road for 3K in my first month, so I'm really, really humbled by that. And if you can, come and smash another subscribe on my channel, that would be amazing. If you head over to Football's 12th Man podcast on YouTube in the banner below, I'd be much appreciated of you guys. That would be amazing. You're going to see a lot more Premier League content, not just Arsenal, but also you'll recognise quite a few influencers over there as well. So if you come and do that, that would be amazing. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Until tomorrow, we're out of here and up the Arsenal. Take care, guys.